Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Just to let you know, this episode does include some sensitive content talking about the ethics of lawyering in more intense cases. So if that bothers you, just want to throw it out there. Thanks. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Trial and Error podcast. I'm Emma Grace.
And I'm Austin.
And today we are going to be answering your questions. Some are juicy, some are practical, some are fun. We got lots of good ones, so thank you so much for your input. We're going to hop right into it. So Austin, why don't you read us the very first question?
What is your favorite memory or experience from the past year? And this is both in law school and outside of law school.
This is making me regret not thinking about these. Now that the pressure's on, you go first.
All right, I'll do my favorite out of law school memory first. So when my wife and I got married, the hotel that we were staying in the night we got married did not have hot water, nor did it have air conditioning.
All the temperatures were off for
yes,
everything.
Everything was off. But because of that, we were staying at a Hilton hotel, and they gave us a voucher to stay at any other Hilton hotel in the United States. So in January of this year, what we did was go to the Waldorf Astoria in Washington, D.C. It's this really fancy hotel at the old post office of the United States. And it was just really cool. And we got to do that. We drove after school on Friday, stayed at a cheap hotel one night just to sleep, and then walked around D.C. and just had a great time.
What about law school?
I haven't got that far yet.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay. It's really hard to pick a memory because I feel like I've hit that point of adulthood where every day is kind of the same. And I also haven't really been on any trips that I can default to. Austin went the easy way. Rude. I mean, I would say I've had a lot of unexpected moments with friends. I'm a big planner, so I plan to get people together often, but every now and then the stars align where like everybody's just together in a moment when you weren't expecting it. Like a couple weeks ago, I went to a beer garden and all my friends were already sitting there, and so we just joined them and had a really good evening. And then again, a couple weeks ago, I had some girlfriends over and more came than I was expecting, and we just like laughed and had a really good time, just like watched YouTube videos, which like when's the last time in your adulthood you sat down with friends and surfed YouTube? Like it was really fun. But those are again like the past month or two, like it's like I can't remember. Like spring semester's a blur.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to come up with your favorite memory or experience from law school because a lot of it is just like monotonous, putting your head down and like reading or studying. And all of the memories that you would form are going to happen outside of law school at like social gatherings anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked my class and my classmates and our vibe. Like there are just funny moments I don't think I'll ever forget of like funny cold calls or silly things that have happened in class. So I feel like those are my best memories, is just like the camaraderie of being miserable but also goofing around in class, especially when you get a professor that'll goof with you. Be a goof. I like my goof professors. I mean, just having Professor Kwan in general with our class was like chef's kiss. But a specific memory around finals, my friend Jed and I climbed on top of this thing. How do I explain this? We climbed in a way that we were above all of these bookcases like 2 days before our finals started, and I was like, this is it.
And there's probably a 25-foot drop to the next floor.
I was like, I could end it all right now. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, wow, I can feel alive again. Anyways, that was funny, just doing silly things like that.
In class, I would say one of the funnier experiences that I had was friend of the pod, Professor Cornett. Anytime we had a visiting student, she would ask where they were from. And if they happened to be from Memphis, she would always call out this other kid that was from Memphis, Jake. And she would just say, well, Jake's from Memphis. And even if the student wasn't from Memphis, she would sometimes say, Jake's from Memphis. Like this kid would be from like Minneapolis. And she would call out and be like, oh, yeah, well, Jake's from Memphis. Just, I don't even know why. It was just funny.
She cold called on prospective students in my class. She'd be like, what? As someone that doesn't know anything about the law, what do you think about this? And they would be like so startled. So, yeah, she's just a hoot. Okay, also, my favorite memory, the Taylor Swift concert. Oh, my gosh. Eras forever.
Except not 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, well, I forgot. It's all a blur, you know, we're having fun. The next question is, what do you think will be the best and worst part of working with clients in the area you are going into? So for me, I don't quite know the area I'm going into, so this will change because in the criminal law world, I don't know if I have clients as much as like victims and defendants. And so it depends if my client is the defendant or if my client is the state, in a sense. And then, of course, if I do something like wills and trusts, I'll have actual clients and billing hours. And obviously, when it comes to billing hours and working in more like a law environment, I think the best part will be the kinds of law I'm interested in. I will get to work more one-on-one with clients rather than being in a courtroom and having all sorts of defendants and victims coming and going. It's more working with people long-term and alongside them long-term as they change their will and probate and everything like that. But of course, billable hours are stressful. Right now, I'm working a job where there are no billable hours, and it's like a completely different world because you don't have to hit something every week. It's okay if there's fluidity in your week. Now, I'm sure there are places where there are billable hours, that's okay too, because you have a lot of projects and maybe there's an end date, and so one week isn't like the other. But in general, it's just nice not having like some threshold you have to meet when it comes to clients and billing them. Like, I just feel like that's kind of unethical. Like, how can I bill this client more? So billable hours are stressful. But as far as like the criminal law world, of course, it's really hard. I think a lot of people think that when you're a prosecutor, your client is the victim, but that's not true. It's the state and the state's interest, and sometimes you can't help the client the way you want. I'm especially learning that now when it comes to things like restitution. A victim might not be able to get money in a civil case or like the statute of limitations passed, but they also can't get money for like their medical expenses or whatever in a criminal case, and you just have to be okay with that because you're not necessarily advocating for them as much as you're advocating for the law. And that's a hard in between, but the best part is, of course, at the end of the day, you feel like you've done good work for your community, and that's a really good feeling. So it just kind of depends. The client question's a lot more confusing when it comes to criminal law.
I want to go into some sort of civil litigation, not criminal probably. And I think the hardest part of that is going to be
the drama. You create violence.
That I was actually going to say that's the best part. The worst part is probably going to be the fact that like clients expect you to be on call 24/7, especially as like a trial date approaches. And I think that that'll be hard because I really value time with my family and really want to be a part of raising my kids. So I'd like to be able to just turn off at 5 or 5:30, head home, and then play catch in the yard. But that's not always going to be possible. But the best part is going to be that I get to argue all the time and get paid for it. Like that's so exciting to me.
Good for you. Yeah, I know that is true. I think civil litigation is also really interesting. It can get, I mean, of course, criminal law is just as heated, but I don't know, something about civil litigation is more like the tea because it's not necessarily people dying. It's more like, ooh, you did my business dirty. I don't know. But yeah, that'll be interesting, and I think that you'll be good at it.
All right. Our next question is, what is your best attribute as a student, and what is your worst?
My best attribute as a student is I'm really good at, well, my dad always said to me, plan the work and work the plan. And I feel like I'm good at that. I sit down and I'm like, these are the things I can get done today. These are the hours I'm going to get them done. And I really plan out my weeks like that. And it helps me be able to stick to it without getting stressed or confused. I'm just a good planner person. Maybe every law person is. Maybe that's a type A personality trait, but I feel like I'm particularly good at that. My worst attribute, I mean, it's best and worst at the same time. What it is that like I hate feeling like there's nothing I can do but this assignment. It's like if the assignment's due at midnight, it's a paper, and I haven't edited yet, and it's 7 p.m. It's like I have to sit down right now. I don't have an option because I'm going to be editing until midnight. I hate that. I hate the feeling of procrastination. It stresses me out. So I tend to get everything done early, which I know doesn't sound like a bad attribute, but it's bad for two reasons. First, I get things done too early, and I don't do as good of a job. Second, it's annoying because if I ever am in a situation where it's like I have to do this right now, like during a final, I get extra stressed because it's like I can't get up right now. Like if I need to get up, I can't. I got to keep going, and that freaks me out more than the actual test. So I'm trying to learn how to be a planner, but not too much of a planner.
Mine's kind of twofold, but my best attribute is that I'm really good at like keeping to my schedule. I have my days planned when I'm going to be like reading versus outlining versus going to class for each class. And I have specific times during the week for those things. And if I have extra time during that time, maybe I should do this, but I don't get started on the next thing until that block starts. So like I'll dork around on my phone for 20 minutes if I finish my torts studying early. And that really helps me like keep a balance of like not feeling burnt out, but still being able to get ahead because I know I have these like built-in breaks if I work harder that I'll be able to do. And then along with that, I think I'm really good at like separating school from home. One of the things I really try and do is like not do anything, especially reading, but not do any like substantive law school work at home. Obviously, there are exceptions, and I prefer writing at home, so I'll head home and work on papers and stuff. But once I'm home and once it's like 5:30 or 6, I'm done for the day with law school, and I just don't think about it anymore. My worst attribute is probably when final season comes around, I think that I get very intense, and other people, it's an energy vibe that stresses other people out. And then
the vibes are off.
The vibes are off. And I think that like it makes me come off as a jerk sometimes, which isn't what I intend, obviously. But I'm also like trying to be the best. And it's just like a naturally competitive environment where it's hard to like be intense, go hard all the time, and then as soon as someone comes up, like turn that off and be friendly with them without also being fake about being friendly with them, you know?
Yeah, maybe it'll help you in the future. The fact that when you're being competitive and kind of have that personality come out of you, it's for your clients rather than against your clients. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It might be easier. But then again, you have to learn how to be nice opposing counsel.
Yeah.
So it's a good lesson to learn. Basically, around law school and finals, everybody be sensitive. People in stress either go to sensitivity or they go to intenseness. So long story short, the vibes are off. Next question. How much does your law school cost? So I will say, from my experience and research, it is not uncommon for people to have 6 figures of debt after law school, whether that's because they went to a private school or because they took out a lot for a living or they already had undergrad debt. Austin and I are really lucky in that, well, I don't have undergrad debt. I feel like you took out loans, but you don't have debt. I don't remember.
Yeah, our net worth is positive.
Okay. So me and Austin are lucky, and it's really helpful that I came into law school with no debt. So 6 figures is like, that was never really going to happen for me, which is great. Our law school, I think it costs in-state.
For in-state tuition, the tuition and fees add up to about $20,000, and then books are expensive. That's another $1,500. I spent.
Say it.
Well,
say it.
I was gonna say I spent more on books than tuition for the past 2 semesters. After scholarships.
That actually makes sense. I spent some. I think the first semester or 2, I wanted all new books because I was stressed about like other people's highlightings and stuff until I found my routine and how I like to read, and I spent a good $2,000 because you also have to buy your first semester like the blue book and supplements that you'll use your second semester, like contracts and stuff. So yeah, that was rough.
In-state at University of Tennessee is currently around $20,000, and out-of-state is $39,000. And then the school offers various different scholarships depending on how you did on the LSAT and your grades and whatever algorithm they use to decide who gets what. So for me, I am an out-of-state student. I came from Florida, but I did pretty well on the LSAT. I don't remember my exact score, but it was like high 160s, I think. So they gave me an in-state scholarship, a scholarship to get me to in-state tuition. And then they also gave me another scholarship for about $5,500. So it's $5,500 a semester, which is $1,100 a year. So that brings total cost down to around 9 or 10. And then I got really lucky. One of my undergrad scholarships let me reapply. And that was from a local law firm in Florida, and they give me $7,500 a year. So I'm only paying $1,500 or so a semester for tuition, and that's why I said that my cost for books was higher than my cost for tuition.
Man, you just exposed yourself. I feel like now I have to match that, but unfortunately, my figures are a lot more sad. So yes, I also have in-state tuition, but I got high. I think I got a 159 on the LSAT. I don't know. It's all a blur. Man, I really just admitted that. That's at law school, you'll find that nobody wants to say their LSAT score or they genuinely forgot it. I think we're kind of, well, for me, it's both. And they don't want to say how much they're paying, but now everybody knows. I think I got total 15,000 off because somehow, I don't remember. It's funny because you can tell from him how his brain works. He does like semester by semester, but for me, I guess because I'm taking out loans, well, he's taking out loans too, but that's his whole strategy over there. But taking out loans, I'm like, when I'm done, I'm going to have taken out 30,000 of loans, and it would cost 60,000. So maybe it's more like 35,000. I don't know. It's somewhere in there. I know it's less than 40,000 is how much I will be taking out. And so I do the math on how much money I'm getting. It's funny. Austin like remembers all of this. I don't. I'm kind of like, okay, I set it all up. I just kind of want to ignore it because it stresses me out to go into debt because I've never taken out loans before. But yeah, so I will be graduating with a lot more debt than Austin. But my whole goal, my husband and I, was to keep it under 50K, and the other schools I got in were like 50K a year. So this is preferable.
Yeah, and I was looking on Reddit the other day, and if you do go to like a top tier school like an Ivy League or a T14 or something like that, and they don't have very good scholarships, you kind of are forced into doing big law for a few years. The post I was reading was saying, man, I spent 2 weeks at this summer job at a big law firm and I thought I was going to like it, and I don't, and now I have to do this for the next 3 years to pay my $180,000 of tuition that it costs me to go to whatever, Virginia or Harvard.
Oh, that stinks. Yeah, the normal thing for law school is to get, what is it called? It's like merit-based. You get merit-based scholarships. So like Austin was saying, that's pretty much normal. And it's also normal to negotiate that almost like a salary. So just a little tidbit there. Maybe we should do a whole episode on that.
The school did not accept any of my negotiations.
Mine either. Okay, UT's intense. They're like, put in everywhere else you got and how much they're offering you. As to where like the other schools, I was like, hey, I want more money. And they added, 10, 20K right there. No questions asked. But UT's like, really? Well, what is the median LSAT of all the other schools? And how much are they giving you? And are those scholarships merit-based? And what are you doing? And what's your social security number? And they go hard. Next question. If you could live anywhere, where would it be?
This is an interesting question for a law school podcast. I feel like a lot of the reason that I picked University of Tennessee is because I want to stay ideally in Tennessee, but this part of the country, like Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, it's really appealing to me weather-wise, geography-wise, culture-wise. I think the South is a lot like the Midwest,
Austin,
which is where I grew up.
You can live anywhere, and you're picking South. I almost said South America, but you know what I mean? United States.
Yeah.
Holy cow! All right, I'm picking Italy. Who's going with me? You would really pick that? That's why this is a good question. It's like, where would you want to practice law, kind of? But if I could live anywhere, I am moving to England immediately.
No.
My tummy there, whole other game. I feel so good. Eating here, it's like I feel like I'm slowly killing myself.
You cook most of your meals.
Have you been abroad? Okay, you don't have to say it like that. I can't help what they sell at Kroger. Have you ever been able to find like genuine like farm to table meat at a Kroger? No.
Well, I don't want to pay for that because
you don't even have to put your freaking butter and eggs in the fridge in England.
You don't have to put your butter in the fridge in America either.
Well, it goes bad faster.
It does in England too.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does.
That's a lie. We're gonna look this up afterwards.
Okay.
If you're
my
team
family,
England, leave a comment and if you're not, don't say because you're wrong.
My family growing up would leave butter out on the table for 2 weeks until we got through the stick, and we were fine.
Yeah, I know, but it would last like months.
Okay, but
I
who takes a month
they, like,
to
leave
eat?
their yogurt out? But I feel like that's fake. That has to be fake. I don't remember. We're looking this up later. Anyways, I love England.
No, I love America.
You don't want to practice with a wig on?
I can put a wig on.
Can you imagine? I mean, I actually know nothing about the law there, so that's like if I could literally live anywhere. My second most unrealistic, England being the most unrealistic, is New York City. I love, love, love cities, but there's no way. I could not be ever paid enough money to do big law. Maybe for 1 year, if I got like $500,000 in 1 year and I could live in New York just 1 year and then come back, I'd do that, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm sticking with Knoxville. Maybe Nashville if I want to spice things up.
Yeah, I just feel like the further west you go, the more boring things get.
Yeah,
like Denver is the only appealing city to me.
That's what I'm saying. Is like it gets boring going west, but then when you get west enough, it gets interesting again.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to like do California or Washington or Oregon. Like Denver is literally the only appealing out west city. It's also really expensive.
All those are expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, Knoxville it is, but please don't move here because all the Californians are coming and everything's getting expensive. XOXO. Okay, like we love you to go to law school, just not here. Next question. Name something you both completely agree on and something you both completely disagree on. All right, well, England is the disagree. No. This is actually hard. This is the only one I thought about before this podcast, and I genuinely could not think of a single thing we completely agree on, except that we both like Natalia.
My wife is pretty great.
Yeah, that's it.
I hope you like your husband, too, because I like him.
Yeah, that one, too. But is there anything else? Well, that made me think that, like, we like similar friends, too, because we have, like, the same friend group. Like, we're find the same kinds of people interesting. But I literally can't think of an opinion that we have in common. Jesus died for our sins.
Yeah, I was gonna say something Christian.
But is it up to us? We disagree on that. So I don't really know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Can you think of anything else? Apple is superior.
Yeah, I don't know how superior you think it is.
Not a ton, but I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we completely disagree on?
How to drink your coffee, anything having to do with politics, what time to go to bed, England, anything else?
I'm sure there are more, but I can't think of them.
Yeah, I think everything. Literally everything.
We don't completely disagree
not
on
completely.
everything.
You're right. Just disagree.
We have similar values and stuff.
Yeah, but
We just apply them differently.
Austin one time tried to tell me we were the same on politics, and then we took the same test, and it was a little brutal.
The questions were bad.
Yeah, that's true. No, you can never really trust those. But anyways, my point is, it's good to have friends that at your core are similar, but are also a little different.
What is the furthest place you've ever been from home?
I think Italy's the farthest I've been.
I think Honduras is the furthest I've gone from home.
We should record an episode in England.
We can write it off as a business expense.
Yes! It's a write-off. Write-off to who, though, is the question. Please sponsor us. What is your Enneagram, and do you think it's accurate? So for all you Enneagram girlies out there.
I'm not one.
Yeah, he's not one. That's fine. I'm actually more of a fan of the Myers-Briggs, but, we're going to do the trendy one. I am a 3-wing 4, but my 4-wing is so strong that I sometimes test as a 4-wing 3. And, if whoever created the Enneagram told me I was a 4-wing 3, I'd believe it. But I think because I picked to go with my achiever side, I test as a 3-wing 4 more often than not. So that's the achiever, really important to do well and perform well, but the 4 is more emotions and sensitive and creativity. So it's basically the worst because I want to achieve, but I also just want to cry in the dark.
I am an 8. I don't know what my wing is. And according to the Enneagram Institute, 8s are self-confident, strong, and assertive, protective, resourceful, straight-talking, and decisive, but can also be egocentric and domineering. That seems pretty accurate.
I feel like you would probably be a wing 7. That's actually hard. Because a 9 is someone that is... Okay, also these are stereotypes. Don't come at us, Enneagram queens and kings out there. But the 9 is more I want everyone in the room to be at peace and be happy. And I feel like you do have some of that. You want the vibes to be good and you'll do what it takes to make the vibes good. But a 7 is more... They find life's purpose in having fun and making memories and experiences. And I feel like you're also like that. But I don't know if you value that necessarily as much as you value you're being at peace within your community.
Yeah, I'm not a very experience-oriented person. There's a reason America's where I want to be,
Right.
I don't care too much about going to, Italy or England or Germany.
Yeah, and it's not always traveling, too. It's other things. Yeah, I think you might be a 9, which is an interesting mix. And I think your wife's a 9, right?
I don't know. Maybe.
Failed the test.
So Emma Grace said she was a 3, and 3s are self-assured, attractive, and charming, ambitious, competent, and energetic. They can also be status conscious and highly driven for advancement.
See, I don't know if I'm status conscious and highly driven for advancement.
I also feel like attractive and charming are physical attributes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more I tend to, at a party, be Leo energy. I'm bringing out the astrology. Okay, it's fine. We'll just leave this as we have it. How do you time manage and stay focused while studying?
So I'm alluded to this earlier, but for me, I just put everything in my calendar at the beginning of the semester when my classes are. I actually just put my fall classes in my calendar yesterday. So that way I know what I'm doing and when, and then I can either break from that if I'm not feeling it that day or know that I have time to do things. And typically I try to spend about an hour and a half for every hour in class, or for every 50 minutes in class. So about twice as much time out of class than in class, either reading, studying, outlining, and then during the end of the semester, that probably ticks up to 3 or 4 hours. Whether or not backloading it is a good idea, I don't know. Emma Grace, in our last episode talking about debriefing finals, recommended backloading because for her that worked better. And I think that's true for me as well. But yeah, just make a calendar, stick to it, but also give yourself the flexibility to be hey, I can move this because I have a digital calendar to another time slot.
Well, another part of the question is how to stay focused. And if I had to guess, I'm probably a little better than Austin at staying focused, but I'm a little less good at time management. Because when we study together, he gets on his phone more than I do. But I'm I think, I can get all this done, and then I can't in the time that I've allotted to myself. But I don't know if that's true. Maybe you are really good at being focused.
Well, so for me, some of you may have heard of this, but I try to do some sort of Pomodoro technique, which is 25 to 35 minutes on, 5 to 10 minutes off. So that's why Emma Grace sees me on her phone all the time, because she's like just going all the time. But in my hour and a half study block, I'll probably take 10 minutes off, and then I have a 10-minute break before the next thing I do. So I spend 20 minutes out of 2 hours not doing anything.
That works for me, unless, like, I love that method, especially when I'm doing, like, in high school when I did homework, or at home when I'm cleaning. But when I'm learning, I get into, it's almost like running a marathon. I get into like a zone, and if I break the zone, it's over. Like, I can't get back into that, especially with writing. Like, if I sit down to write, I'll tell myself, oh, just 30 minutes. But then I'm gonna end up being able to go for like 2 hours, because I get into like this like zone where I can't even see anything around me. I'm like so focused. And so when I get in that special spot, I don't want to take a break. But it does make you very sleepy afterwards. So I think it's really up to you. Time managing while you're studying, the best thing you can do is not use your phone for that. I feel like I put my phone next to me and I'm like, oh, when it's this time, I'll switch to this. But then I just end up seeing every notification. So a really good way to time manage and focus that Austin is also really good at, because he puts his phone like on silent, like he can't get notifications unless it's Natalia. I highly recommend doing that. Like, don't use your phone as your device to help you time manage and focus, because ultimately it's a distraction in of itself.
Yeah, I also have apps that will block my access to anything besides like Google Docs and Westlaw and Lexis while I'm working for 25 minutes at a time. And I recommend things like that as well. All right. Our next question is, what were your expectations for 1L year, and how have they been met or been different?
My expectations for 1L year, I honestly try not to have any, because I didn't know how big our class was going to be. I didn't know what section I was going to be in. They don't even give you, at UT, you don't even get your schedule till like, okay, for me, apparently people like knew and figured it out because they're type A or whatever. But I literally didn't know my class schedule till like a week before, when they were like, here's your classes and all the books you need to buy, go. So it's like, I kind of had no expectations. I think I thought I would find the work more boring than I do. Like, yeah, we all know at this point contracts isn't my favorite, but it's not like I'm miserable reading it. Like, it's still interesting to me, which is a really good sign, because I'm doing something that I enjoy. And that's the most important part. And that I really scheduled myself next year to take classes that I think I'll enjoy rather than get a good grade, because I'll naturally do better if I like it. But a way that they've been met, I think I've been at UT a long time, and we just have a knack of having really good professors, and I was never worried about having professors that were mean or scary and not accessible. I was surprised, I guess, by how accessible our professors are, because I thought at the graduate level maybe there wouldn't be as many office hours, but there are. But overall, besides that, I feel like my expectations were met with how great our professors are.
Yeah, I also didn't have a ton of expectations heading into school. I'm the first person in my family to go to law school, so I just didn't really know anything. I didn't go to law school on a whim, but it was probably a later decision than most to decide to go to law school for people who are like in school still. Like, I didn't decide to go to law school until probably April of my senior year of undergrad, which, unless you're taking like an extended break, I think is pretty late. So I didn't have very many expectations heading in. I did hear a lot of horror stories, though, about people like tearing pages out of books and being hyper competitive and stuff like that. And honestly, that hasn't been the case at all. Everyone's super friendly. I can't think of anyone I don't like.
I feel like it's really good to go in with no expectations, honestly. Like, I also don't have anyone in my family. I didn't know much. When I was working at a firm, I swear every lawyer, when they found out I was going to law school, would tell me something different. And they all went to UT. They're like, oh, this person's horrible. No, this person's great. Oh, you're going to be so miserable doing this. No, this will be really easy. Like, it's just a subjective thing like everything else in life. It's not like one person knows all. So I honestly think it's best to wait to find out. How are your expectations met?
I don't know. I thought it was going to be more work than it is. I thought it was going to be more competitive than it is. I'm not very big on like talking with professors for class material. Like, I'm usually just get down, listen in class, and then I'll get enough information from that. But I did go to a couple of professors to talk about career advice, and that's helpful, but I wasn't expecting that. I don't know. I didn't have any expectations to meet.
Smart people. There are smart people in school.
Yeah.
Especially the professors, maybe more than the students. How do lawyers balance ethics with the possibility of representing unethical people or companies? I thought this was really interesting. Do you think, what's the class we have to take? Professional responsibility? Do you think that will be about this question? Like, I have no idea what that is. There's this class called professional responsibility we have to take. It's going to be on the bar. I don't know what it entails.
It's a separate exam.
Oh, it's a separate exam.
Yeah.
Okay. So look how much. See, no expectations here. I'm just vibing. He's like, I did all my classes already. I'm like, I will be doing that August 1st. Until then, don't ask me. But I wonder if that's going to answer this question, because we don't talk about that much in school.
So I just went to a Christian Legal Society conference in Washington, D.C., and this was a big thing that we focused on. And it's different in civil versus criminal. Like criminal, you can pretty easily just say, oh, I'm defending the Constitution and the rule of law in the United States. Like we designed an adversarial system in order to determine what justice is. And in Romans, it talks about like God put the system in place for justice. So I think an interesting question for Christians, at least, is like, how do you manage the tension between like being in the system that God put in place versus like having an ideal vision of what the system should look like? So I think that's an interesting question to ponder. But we also talked about doing it in a civil case. Like I could never defend someone I could never represent someone who is like civilly advocating for abortions, like that's just a line that I have. It's a little easier in a civil context because you can just say no, but if you're at a big firm, it's harder to just say no. So I don't know. It's a tough question that I think you're going to have to pray or meditate on or whatever if you're doing it, especially in a civil context.
Yeah. I'll add that I don't think human beings truly know what justice is. I think we get closer as time goes on. But if you just look at how morals have changed in the past 50 years, some is for the better and some is for the worse. And I think humanity repeats itself a lot. And I think only God knows what true justice is, and that's his job. And our job is to love others and do his will. And I think when you're following his will, this is becoming theology. But I mean, for us, that's how we have to answer this question, right? Because we are Christians. I want to do God's will, and I want to do good for his people because he loves every single person. And so I think my justice is really skewed. Like I'm against the death penalty. And I think a lot of people don't feel that way that are Christians, but personally for me, that's just how it leads me. And so it is really hard. I will say, I don't think it's hard. I would have no problem. I'm not going to say no problem because that sounds arrogant. I don't know what it's like truly, but I don't think I'd have the problem that a lot of people think would be a problem when I'm like defending someone who's raped somebody, because like Austin said, at the end of the day, it's about making sure that their rights are upheld, because you never know the one case where things are sticky and maybe not what they seem, and you want to make sure that that person's end up in prison. I think it's so much worse to put somebody in prison that doesn't belong there than have people that maybe should be in prison out. Again, I don't know. That's a hot take, but I just want to really be sure that people's rights are held. The problem is I think when you're a prosecutor, it's much easier to be like, I'm defending the rule of law and this victim got hurt. But as a defense attorney, zealously advocating for your defendant sometimes is blurry, because it's like, of course I want to defend their rights, but also they are telling me, this is my story, I want you to say it for me and craft it like this. And you might not agree with them, and you might think it's unethical. And that's what's hard. And that's what I've been seeing in my cases is lawyers having to do things where it's like, Your Honor, my defendant wants this, and I think it's real stupid, but he's making me ask, So it's like you kind of actually have a client in a way that you don't as a prosecutor. So I find that super difficult.
I think another thing that is helpful is trusting attorneys on the opposite side. I would be much more comfortable doing criminal defense knowing that the prosecutor knew what they were talking about, because their job, like the job of the two of you, is to push against each other. So that way the jury and the judge can determine what the truth is. And the best way to find truth is to like hit each other with facts.
Yes, I agree. And I think it's important for both sides to zealously advocate for their client for the best information to come out in court. But again, this question is talking about representing unethical people and companies. What we're showing here, I think, is that maybe Austin and I see differences. Well, we agree in that representing a person comes with its own dilemmas versus a company, because he's explaining maybe a company, maybe I work in big law and I got a case on my desk that I personally don't like. And that is kind of a different situation, because it's more like you're in a system and you have a specific job and it's kind of hard to pull out. It's where you have a lot more discretion when you're representing a person, but you want to do it well. I personally would have no problem in a company working on a case like abortion, because at some level, like, I have to do what the law says, not what my morals say. And I think that between me and God, he's cool with that. As long as I'm not, I don't know. Again, the death penalty. I'm against the death penalty, but it's the law, so I'm never going to not argue. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to put the law first and hope that it's for God's glory. And if you feel in your gut like God's saying, this is not my will for you, I don't want you to do this, that's up to your discretion. Anyways, that got deep. I feel like we should do a whole I feel like a couple of these could be a whole episode.
We'll go deeper into this one in the future.
Yeah, because I think Austin and I disagree a lot, but also respect each other's opinions a lot on this one. Okay, well, we got 2 joke ones, but like I'm going to throw them in. So somebody asked, why is Austin handsome?
Because God made me that way.
Okay. Theoretically. But you can't see, so pros and cons.
Yeah, I don't have
I'd rather be attractive and... Wait. No, I'd rather be ugly and be able to see.
But you can't see.
I know, that's why I'm hot. Anyways. I was also asked, what's the best part of being bestie vibes with Jake all summer? And the best part is that his door is right by the entrance where everyone comes in. So every single day I can go knock on his door if I want to. But I've been good and I've only done it once.
You should harass him more.
I'm playing. Okay, he was getting married. Now that he's back from his honeymoon, the bestie vibes have begun. Okay, now to end, we're really quickly going to, in a way, look at your Q&As. We asked you all some questions a few weeks back around finals in law school, of this or that type style on our stories, and we're going to be reacting to them as the last thing we do because, you know, this is a mutually beneficial podcast, okay? We care about you all. So just remember that while you leave a rating. Okay, the first one is this or that. 1 hour final but time pressure, or 4 hour final but can be done in 3. 43% said that they would want a 1 hour final but there's a lot of time pressure, versus the 57% that says they want a 4 hour final but can be done in 3. Thoughts?
I would agree with the majority in this case. I think that it's a better display of knowledge to have a longer exam that can be completed in a short amount of time, I think. And I think that's what exams should be for.
Do you really think, though, that law school's testing our knowledge?
Our knowledge of the law, yeah. It may not be applicable in real practice, but it's testing how well we can format an answer like a lawyer would, and then how well we are able to apply the law that we learned.
I think what they're testing us on is how fast can we spot issues, apply what we've learned quickly while recognizing the gray area in the law. I think the most important thing is recognizing how it can go this way or that way and finding all the issues. And I think the faster ones tend to be more like, if you get all the issues, you get more points, as to where the longer ones, it's like if you don't find the most like nuanced little, or it could be this way, like there's so many options of what could happen. I find it personally annoying to have to work through every single thing and accidentally miss one thing, rather than have the 1 hour like quick and dirty version. I like that version a lot more.
I don't know. I think the longer is going to be a better representation of what you're doing in the practice of law. Like, they're teaching you how to go. I
disagree. You literally sitting there for 4 hours, you're never going to have. And when you're a lawyer, will someone put something in front of you and say, you have 4 hours to figure out the solution to this? That'll literally never happen.
No, the point is to teach you all the, just how many different ways the law can go. So that way, when you have a client, you can just keep honing in to the way that's best for them.
But a 1 hour final, the whole point is like you might get a client and you only have an hour to look over, and you have to be able to quickly issue spot the things that you need to speak to about the client. And then later on, it might take days to like look through all of the record or whatever you have to actually make a solution. So the 4 hour things like this in between that I don't think will ever happen in the real world.
I don't know. I think we're going to listen to our client and have to take notes on every single thing that's relevant, potentially, and then come up with defenses for it.
I hope this podcast goes on forever, but if it doesn't, we're going to have to do a reunion episode, because obviously we're talking out of our asses, but that's what I think. We'll see who's more accurate here. Okay, next one. This or that. 68% said open book and 32% said closed book.
I don't know.
I'm neutral.
I'm kind of neutral on this one too. I think that open book is convenient to the extent that your professor gives you what they want, but closed book is a better test of your knowledge. I don't know. I think in real life it's probably going to be more open book, but also you should be able to issue spot without your
that's what I'm saying. If the whole point is issue spotting and your intuition with the law, it should be fast and closed booked. But open book is also nice because a part of it is how you strategize, how you're going to be using your open bookness. And it's to me, because I feel like I'm pretty good at that, I'm survival of the fittest, bro. Here we go. But yeah, closed book's a little annoying because you have to memorize things that you would not have to memorize in real life. This or that. 59% said essay. 41% said multiple choice. I'm an essay girl through and through. What about you?
I think so too. I don't think the law is multiple choice most of the time.
Yeah. A multiple choice is nice because it's you got a little bit of a cushion, and also some people get nervous about writing, but I really enjoy writing, and I feel like that shows I feel like, for example, in contracts, when we're doing like the math things, it's like just numbers. And I like almost wish next to it I could write like, I think it's this one if the judge were to interpret it this way, but blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like I always want to give a caveat. And the whole point of law school is learning it depends, which you can't do on multiple choice. I literally had a multiple choice exam last semester where like every option had it depends. And I swear I put that like half the time. So it's like, what's the point? This or that. Make your own outline or pay for an outline. Only 14% said pay for an outline.
I think that's correct. I mean, I do both. Like, I get the outline, and then I make it bigger, and then I make it tiny.
Yeah, I feel like you're paying for an outline in that when you, like, join a club and they have outlines you can use, you're technically paying for that. But you have to make your own to learn, and I think that's what this is showing is, like, some people will use that as one tool, but most people in law school are making their own outlines.
I definitely wouldn't pay for, like, commercial outlines. Like, I would only do outlines for people who had the professors I had, I think.
Exactly. This or that. 78% said coffee. 22% said energy drink.
You know where I stand.
Okay, well, I'm actually drinking an energy drink today that's disgusting, so I'm actually a little bit more neutral. Usually I'd be a zealous advocate for my energy drinks because green tea caffeine does good things for you, okay? Coffee caffeine be making me shake. I got the shakes.
You can take pills that have the green tea thing in them that help you, though.
That's true, I could, but this is tasty and I need to hydrate.
So is coffee.
It's not tasty, it's bitter.
That's tasty.
Okay, see, we're running into the issue here. Also, coffee, okay, I will say Austin's coffee is super cheap. He just drinks like black coffee. But for me, it's like if I were going to do a coffee routine, you know I'm out here with the espresso machine and the lattes. If you're like that, girl, just go to energy drinks. Red Bull is not as bad as you think. Freaking hot take. Read the label.
Isn't Red Bull like $1.50 for an 8-ounce bottle, though?
I don't want to talk about that right now.
That's too expensive.
Okay, well, $5 latte.
I buy instant coffee, and that lasts me a month, and it's $5.
I buy energy packets usually. I like Celsius packets. Like a Celsius is like $2, but you get a pack of like 24 that one pack is like the equivalent of one can for like $6-7 at Kroger. So I feel like that's pretty good. I suggest you figure out if you're a caffeine person and if so, what the best kind is before starting law school. How to prepare for law school? Learn caffeine. This or that. Austin with a mustache, 71%, or no mustache, 29%. How does that make you feel?
I don't know. I feel like I was more distinct when I had a mustache, but
I'll let you know I think every girl in our small group said no mustache, including your wife. That was literally the 29%.
She goes back and forth.
It looks like a rat in your face.
She got mad at me when I shaved it after finals.
Really?
Yeah.
You look like you have a rat on your face. Long story short, there was a rat in our house the other day. And I looked at it and literally thought, Austin's mustache is running around.
That's so rude.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this slightly longer episode of us shooting the crap together. And thank you so much for your questions. This was a really fun one. We will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.